Michael Yo Show.
Welcome to the Michael Yo Show. It is Michael Yo. We actually call this Morning Yo too, because I started doing the podcast in the morning, started putting it on Facebook, and then it kind of took off from there. So people just love the vibe, the positivity I'm putting out in the morning. So it's a good thing. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Just please be safe. So I'm not going to tell you what you should do, what you should not do, who you should hang out with. I'm just saying, be safe. That's all I'm saying. Just please be safe. I love bringing on friends during the morning, yo, because it's interesting to hear how other people are dealing with the pandemic, especially from a comedy side. How we're kind of strapped for cash. We don't have jobs. We can't travel the country, but some people are making the most of it. And that's why I wanted to get Ahmed Ahmed, one of my great friends, on the podcast. What's up, Ahmed?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm alive. I'm good. It's Thanksgiving. Do you have big plans today? What's your plans?
I am gonna go spend it with my buddy, his wife, and his new baby.
Okay.
I'm like the fifth wheel.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
So what about you? What are you up to?
So me and my, we're in Vegas now. After I beat COVID. Yeah, after I beat COVID, I had to get out of LA. So I told my wife, let's just get out of here. Her parents live out here. We rented a place like 4 or 5 houses down from them.
Oh,
and then
cool.
I loved it so much. I was like, let's build a house out here. So now we're having a house built. So it's going to take like a year to get it done.
I didn't know that. You know who moved out there is
Oh, you cut out.
Sorry about that.
No worries. You got cheap internet. I get it.
No,
I get it.
somebody tried to. I'm doing this on my phone, and somebody tried to call me.
Oh, you got to turn the alerts off, bro.
I tried to do that. Actually, you know what? Give me a second. Can I do that really quick?
Yeah, do it.
Sorry, man. Sorry, people, if you're watching. Give me 1 sec here.
No problem, bro.
Where is this?
I'll just edit this part out, so it'll be all good.
Anyway.
Yep.
My bad.
No worries.
That should work.
No worries.
Yeah, Brett Ernst moved out there. I know a couple comics moved out there. I was just out there last week, but I saw that your parents, didn't your dad just have or your parents had an anniversary? I saw that you were celebrating, and
yeah,
your parents are cool.
Dude, they're funny as fuck, dude. My parents.
Your parents are cool as fuck, man.
Dude, I tell you, man. They've been married 47 years. I went home to Houston, Texas, because I didn't want to travel when everybody was traveling for Thanksgiving. Right. So I went out there, man, and it's weird, man. After I started stand-up comedy, I'm going on my 10th year. I know you've been in the game a lot longer, but as soon as my dad saw me on stage for the first time, it totally changed him. It's almost like, it did. It's almost like he saw me and he goes, oh, I didn't know we could do that. And he came from me, so I'm funny too. And after 10 years, man, my dad, for the last 10 years, he's been going dancing. He loves cruises when they were safe. He enters every contest. He wins every contest. It's like a new life, and I don't know what caused it. They're on my podcast sometimes, and they're hilarious. But
yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, but I don't understand. Like, he hit a switch. After he saw me, he hit a switch, and he's just like the funniest dude now, Bro, and so is my mom.
You brought it out of him, I guess, man.
I guess so. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy if you think about it.
Your parents are adorable, man. It's fun to watch them on your social media.
Yeah, man. They're great. They're great. Now, you're going to your friend's house for Thanksgiving. Oh, Ahmed, can you turn up your volume? Is there any way to turn up your volume a little bit?
Yes. What's going on here? Is this better? Check.
Turn it up as high as it can go.
Check.
Yeah.
How's that? Better?
That's a little bit better, yeah.
Sorry, man. I'm
no
working with like limited technology right now.
Oh, no worries. So you're going to your friend's house for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. We're gonna go up there and just it's just gonna be a chill day. I haven't really had like it's you have to be selective with who you're going to hang out with, and do they get tested, and how long, who's. It's a weird time right now in the world. You have to kind of really be careful. I mean, you had it. You had the Rona.
Yeah.
So I mean, you really got to. I mean, I mask up, but I try to surround myself around people that I know either got tested or we've been together for a while. Or it's weird because I'm doing these comedy shows in Venice Beach, but I don't really interact physically with anybody, and we require masks, and we take temperatures at the door, and it's distanced, and but I don't even really fist bump with people or elbow or none of that. I'm just like, hey, welcome to the show. Have a seat,
Well, what I love about you, you're the ultimate hustler. I mean, you've been in Hollywood. Seriously, you have so many stories.
You too, man.
Hey, we're both hustling. We're both trying to make it. But what I love about you is, people know you in Hollywood. They've seen you with Vince Vaughn. They know you came up with Vince Vaughn and did that. What was the name of that?
I actually came up with him, is how it worked.
Oh yeah, you came up with him. Yeah. So, and then your story of Hollywood, and on my last podcast, you talked about kind of like, you got into some things with a couple comics, but it's one of those love-hate things. Some people love you, some people hate you in the comedy business. In Hollywood, you left.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate.
Well, I'm being honest. This is what you said last. This is what you said. I love you. This is what you said the last podcast. This is what you said the last podcast. I'm just going by that. But then you left the country.
Yeah.
You did your thing out there, and now you're back during the pandemic. You decided to come back during the pandemic, and now you got one of the hottest shows that's going on during the pandemic. What led you to Venice Beach? How'd you set this all up? Because I just saw Bill Burr did the show. He sold out like 3 nights. Yeah. So how'd this all come to play?
Well, first of all, thank you. And I think the same about you. Like you're one of those comics that I like comics who don't take sides, and a lot of our business comics always want to take a side. Unless you have hard facts, don't take a side. Just be down the middle and respect people as they are. And I think you've always been like that. I think also too, our hustle comes from just being brown. The brown in us, like we have to achieve and work a lot, faster and harder than the quote unquote average comic, because we just have more going against us. We also don't fit in the category like, is he black? Is he white? Is he Asian? Is he Arab? We're in that. I know you talk about that in your comedy act quite a bit. So in that sense, thank you. What happened was I got kind of fed up with LA, to kind of piggyback on the last podcast we did. I moved to Asia for a couple of years. I lived in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I was producing comedy shows. I was technically a talent buyer and a content producer out there. But then I would bounce around Asia and do like these small comedy shows for expats and stuff. So I was still performing, but then working as a producer, I was moonlighting basically. And then I felt like the comedy scene in Asia needed a little bit more growth. It just wasn't as evolved as I would have liked it to have been. And so I decided to.
Now, when you say evolved, is that the talent wasn't there, or the scene wasn't there, or people haven't learned to like comedy out there? What does that exactly mean?
All three. There are some very, very talented guys in Asia. I mean, off the top of my head, Jason Leong, who has a Netflix special out right now called #Blessed. He's super strong, smart comic, ex-doctor. He's Chinese Malaysian. Ben Quinlan out of Hong Kong. He's like a financial analyst, but he's this tall, bald, handsome, like half Aussie, half Asian guy. One of the smartest, funniest fucking comics I've ever seen. Rizal Vengezel out of Malaysia, who owns a comedy club called the Crack House Comedy Club, where he let me perform every week, every night almost, and I built an hour of brand new material in there. Andy Curtin, who's Australian, speaks perfect Cantonese and Mandarin, has a comedy club in Hong Kong. I think it's called what's it called? I can't even think. It'll come back to me. But yeah, so there's a handful of like really great comics out there that I love and respect. So talent wise, they're out there. It's not large in numbers like it is in the US. Audiences. I one of the reasons I left Malaysia was because I was banned over a joke that they found online that I told 13 years ago on my Axis of Evil Comedy Central special about a mosque and a nightclub across the street from each other in Dubai,
Mm-hmm.
which is a true thing. And I talked about how it confuses Muslims, Allahu Akbar, and doonch, 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 and that kind of thing. But I didn't even tell the joke. I haven't told it in years. But their keyboard warriors found it online. And I had 4 immigration officers come up and say, you can't perform in Malaysia anymore because it's a predominantly Muslim country. So they thought I was being blasphemous toward Islam. So to answer your part 2, what was the third part?
Oh, talent. It was the crowd, the talent, and then has the crowd learned to laugh about?
Yeah. So a lot of the expats who live there were the ones who were predominantly coming to shows, so they understood like Western humor and sarcasm. But like a lot of the locals, sarcasm is a new thing for them. So you can't really get into like backhanded comedy because they're like, what? What do you mean? So it just needs some time to grow. But it is like Malaysia has a comedy scene. Hong Kong has a comedy scene. Singapore has a comedy scene. Vietnam has a comedy scene. I performed in Jakarta. Was it Jakarta? No, I visited Jakarta and I visited Bali. I performed in Singapore, Tokyo, Hong Kong, mainland China, Philippines. And so, yeah, I mean, it just needs time to grow. And that's why I wanted to come back. And just
so is that the main reason you came back? Because it's kind of like, look, I did everything I could do out there. Now it's time to come back to America. And maybe you learned a lot out there to bring over here.
Yeah, I mean, I made some great connections. I made some great friends, actually. I made some new fans. I wrote a whole new hour of material about living in Asia. So it was a win-win overall. I just felt like I kind of hit a wall and I wanted to just, come back to LA or New York, come back to the mainland in the US. Only because, look, if you can make it in New York or LA, then you're kind of accepted globally. It doesn't really work the other way around. I mean, although now it's kind of shifting a little bit, but if you have that like Hollywood cachet, or if you're on Netflix, or if you have a deal with a company, whatever, then people put more eyeballs on you, I think. But now, and as you know, I was just going to say now, and as you know, social media is kind of gobbling all that up. So you don't even need mainstream media anymore. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, people are crushing it that way.
You know what I love? I don't know if you know Sam Morril.
Yep.
Have you heard of that? Okay, so Sam Morril, he basically, nobody picked up his special, just like a lot of comics, but Comedy Central did put it out on their platform, and now he just shot another one on his own. And I feel like that could be the new movement of comedy, is kind of shooting your own thing, putting it on YouTube, take out all the commercials or play the commercials, however you want to play it, and you control it. Then you can control your own albums. I mean, there's some pros and cons and everything, but a lot of comedians are saying, fuck the industry, I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah, Andrew Schultz.
Yeah, Andrew Schultz is another one.
Perfect example of a guy who just said, fuck the industry, I'm gonna do it on my own. And I watched that guy grow from 100,000 followers to 1 million in like 6 months because he was just putting out so much content, and he's funny. And he found his audience, Chapelle, perfect example. That guy, he, from what I understand, Netflix bought his already shot specials. I think for 20 million each. He had a $60 million deal. He had a really interesting interview with Gayle King. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, Gayle King interviewed him. This was probably a year and a half ago or so. If you just go on YouTube and Google Gayle King, Dave Chapelle, she said, why do you walk away from $50 million? Everybody said you were crazy. You went to Africa, And he told everybody pretty much what he's telling everybody now in his Unforgiven 18-minute IGTV thing is the story of what happened. But then he said, look, It's been 10 years, and Netflix paid me $60 million for 3 specials. So let's just say I got an extra 10 million bucks. We'll call it interest.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. He just kind of in his head rationalized it like, hey, I got $1 million a year after that. If you look at the whole math of it all, Netflix, and this is the power, and I just hate to sidetrack the conversation.
No, please do.
But I you know, I watched Chappelle's Unforgiven. Interesting to hear, you know, his side of the story, which I'm obviously think is true. And then all the press out there about how, you know, he called Netflix and said, "Can you guys please take down the Chapelle Show? It makes me feel bad." He wasn't like, "Fuck, you know, Comedy Central," and you know, I don't know what the conversation was with him and the head person at Netflix, Ted Sarandis or whoever, but he was probably just super sincere and like, you know, I have PTSD from this shit. You know, I'm making you guys a lot of money. Is there, not that he said that, but is there any way you can just appease my feelings? And they fucking yanked that shit, bro. I mean, that's unheard of.
It is unheard of, but it's also a thing where I feel like Dave Chapelle is just the biggest superstar as far as comedy in the game. So but I go against, so I'm actually talking out loud and thinking, well, Comedy Central never pulled it, so they didn't care. You know what I mean? So and they're still selling the rights to it. And I wanted to talk about the Dave Chapelle thing too, because, you know, I saw Unforgiven, and I feel like Dave Chapelle right now, and even his last special, I think it was the George Floyd one. It's not even about comedy anymore. It's about commentary. It's about commentary with jokes here and there, but mainly to get out a real message. And I really feel, you know, you have to be really good at storytelling to pull that off. But I really feel this is the type of comedy that people need at this time.
Sure.
You know, they don't need ha 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 the whole time. Make a statement, make a point, let me know what's really going on, and then we'll get to the laughs. And I think Dave Chapelle, like when I last watched his last special, the George Floyd one, you know, it's so funny to hear comics or the industry go, "Oh my God, it was so funny." And people are asking me, I go, "It wasn't funny at all.
It wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny. It wasn't." And if you're saying it's hilarious, you missed the point. That wasn't supposed to be hilarious. That was supposed to be like, yo, they choked the motherfucker out, and we watched it on TV.
Yeah.
And people were posting about it. And if you think about laughing about this, you're missing the point. And it's just the comedy industry. You know it. It's bandwagon jumpers too. Like literally Dave Chapelle could go up and automatically it's the funniest shit ever, but he's not trying to be funny. He's trying to make points. And that's when I'm on social media like everybody else. And when I see comedians go, "Oh my God, it was so hilarious," I go, "Dude, you're just an ass kisser right now." Because it wasn't supposed to be funny, you dummy.
Yeah.
So.
And well, you know what? It's look, I will say this, and I'll speak for my own, you know, personal thoughts on it. It's cathartic. It's cathartic to have a voice in the world right now, not just in Hollywood, in the world. Everybody's got their eyeballs on Chapelle. So when he talks, everybody's listening, right? And his commentary on stuff is healing and cathartic, and it's painful. And when you watch it, you know, it's almost like, you know, right on, brother. Somebody's speaking out and speaking for us, for people, for, you know, not only just for comics, just for the people. And I think Chapelle has filled that void. And I think he's only going to get better, man. I mean, his point of view, you know, the inflection in his voice, just his voice in general, you know, his cadence, the resonance in his voice, you know, he's almost like a jazz singer, you know, meets a poet, meets a comedian. He's got a lot of different, you know, dimensions going on with him right now. He's out of this world, man. He's by far, you know, arguably the most, you know, interesting guy in the world to listen to right now.
Yeah, no, it's true. He is, you know, what they had that commercial, the most interesting man like Dave Chapelle is the most interesting guy in the world. And he's captivating, you know, man. When you watch him 18 minutes, that Unforgiven, if anybody hasn't seen Unforgiven, I'm gonna put a link to it. If you haven't seen it, 18 minutes flies when you're listening to Dave Chapelle.
Yeah.
I've seen some comedians, and I'm sure comedians have seen me on stage. They're like, wow, 18 minutes seems forever.
Guilty as charged.
Right. So, but what I love is when I first started comedy, I would say 10 years ago, there was a lot of backstabbing, and it may still be, but I feel now since podcast is exploding, it's almost like the Avengers. You do have clicks. I'm not going to lie to you. You do have clicks in podcasting, and it's hard to break into those clicks if you want to get on their podcast. But what it does is it sets an environment where people are jumping on, like you jumping on mine, I would jump on you. So the precedence is set where, hey, we don't have to go against each other. We can actually help each other and be on each other's podcasts and make each other better and, just talk it out and learn from each other. So I feel that over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen it go, backstab into, oh shit, you can help me, I can help you. Oh, now if a brown person gets a role, it's not going against me. It could just open doors to other people of that skin color. I was talking to my wife, she's white. And one thing she noticed to me at the same time, this is the first time over the last year I've seen mixed race couples with kids on so many commercials. Usually, you remember that cereal commercial probably 5-6 years ago? There was a white wife, and the black husband was in the other room. And people got mad about that.
No, it's I mean, well, don't get me started on the whole cancel culture.
Oh man, it's gotta go.
That's a different podcast.
Well, you know what? I will say this about cancel culture, because here's the thing. Here's what I fight all the time is cancel culture is a thing where you can go against it, you can go for it, but if you say something that I don't like, you have your freedom of speech. But if I don't like it, you can't cut off my freedom of speech not to like it. So that's where I ride the balance of cancel culture. Yeah, it's fucking a lot of people up right now. You know what I mean? But if I was to take your right away, because we're just looking at one side. When people go cancel culture, I feel like people are looking at one side like, oh, they're assholes and they're trying to take, if they don't like it, just don't listen. But you said it. You said your thoughts. Now, at least it's a two-way street. You have to give them their rights to have opinions. Like, let's say Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, if there's a reporter on and they say something they don't like, people don't like, people have the right to say, I don't like that, and to boycott and to call advertise. That's their freedom of speech.
Right.
So that's why it's so hard for me to balance. Do I think people abuse it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those people that abuse it are horrible people. But I also think, man, freedom of speech is a two-way street, but when it's presented, it's only a one-way street. Does that make any sense, what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And that's the problem. It's, you hit it right on the money. It's a double-edged sword. You can say something, you can cancel something, you can objectify something, and then when the person wants to rebut or give their opinion or agree to disagree, that's where the friction happens. That's where the head bumps start. It's like, well, okay, you said your piece. This is what I think. I just had a discussion with a a friend, colleague, whatever you want to call it, and the conversations were becoming very one-sided. Let's just say, and I just turned 50. So it's almost like, when women's clocks are ticking, they want to have a baby. It's like a physical, chemical thing going on. I think as a man, how old are you, Mike?
I'm 46. I just turned 46.
Okay. Oh, happy birthday. All right. So when you hit 50, and you'll come back to me in 4 years, if we're still around, come back in 4 years and say, hey man, you were right. When I hit 50, something chemically in my brain and in my body said no more of any bullshit, like no more tolerance. You're not tolerating people's bullshit. I used to have a 3-strike rule. If somebody fucked me over 3 times, they're out. If I get fucked over once, you're gone. That's it. You're dead to me. Well, I don't want to talk to you because I don't have the bandwidth for it anymore.
Also, I feel like look, I'm 46, but I feel like the older you go in life, you think about mortality. Like
Yeah.
I got kids, so you're like, when I hear people die at like 60, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? That's
Yeah.
only like 14 years away, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a thing also, it's like, I may not have much time here, so I'm not going to deal with your bullshit. You know what I mean?
And not to mention, and we've been in the business long enough, our industry, it could be very, and I'm talking personal, business, whatever, family, even friendships, but specifically in our industry, not to beat a dead horse, but I've crossed enough bridges to know that I don't have to walk across them anymore. And so moving forward, my future and like where I want to dictate my path in my industry is, to circle back to what we were talking about earlier, is just to take charge of my own life and not wait for Hollywood to call me, not wait for my agents to give me the audition, not wait for this comedy club booker to call me back, or that person won't rep me, or I've heard there's so many moving parts in our industry, and Chapelle, and Bill Burr, these guys who are arguably, it doesn't matter if they're the biggest comics on the planet right now, they're the hardest working in a sense because they've taken control of their own destiny. Bill Burr always says, you got to write your own ticket. You got to write your own movie, write your own special, write your own thing. Chapelle goes and records 3 specials on his own, then sells it. It's like, you just have to be your own producer, your own director, your own businessman, your own agent. When I came back from Asia, I moved to New York City for a couple months, kind of grinding it out there. And then the pandemic hit in March, and then I pivoted back to LA, and I landed in Venice Beach, where I live now. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Comedy clubs are closed. Like, I was booked up until October. All those gigs were wiped out. I was living on unemployment, a little bit of that stimulus, a couple residual checks here and there, and a little bit of, I literally was like, and then I had like 3 or 4 failed attempts at trying to do a comedy initiative in LA. Which failed miserably because I got fucked over by the owner, or the venue manager didn't like it, or some guy wouldn't sign a contract, or just typical bullshit that we deal with. And then I got lucky. I landed this outdoor bungalow villa compound right in the heart of Venice Beach that, fun fact, coincidentally, Harrison Ford's kids used to live in, is what I heard. And they kind of like ran it into the ground, I guess. and it's this cool, weird compound. It's a multiplex compound, but in the middle, outside, there's a 100-foot single lane lap pool with a bridge over it. It's real funky. And we started doing a comedy night there 6 weeks ago, and it blew up, man. It just like,
how many people does it hold? Because I haven't been there yet, but how many?
Well, I can't wait for you to get back to LA.
Oh, me too.
So just let me know. It probably, so we put 50 distanced seats in there. So it can hold 50 distanced. And then there's like this rooftop thing where the owner and his friends sit. So probably like 60.
Okay.
Maybe 70 if we squeeze. But, we want to practice the physical distancing. If we didn't physical distance, we could probably get 150 seats in there. So we distance it. We require masks. You can't come in without a mask. You can't take your mask off during the show. We don't sell food or liquor. So you could bring your own food and drinks, but we ask that if you take a bite or a sip, you put your mask right back up, and if you don't, you're asked to leave. You can't record in there. We run a tight ship. That's why Bill Burr came back 3 times. He was like, I love this place. It's fucking great. Yeah, why not? No, I like what you're doing. The lap pool. I thought at first it was a little fucking tricky, but you know what? It makes sense. Because I don't want to be close to them. They don't want to be close to me. His whole thing. So,
yeah.
That's a stupid Bill Burr impression.
I wasn't going to call you out on it. I was going to let you go with it and say, that's great.
Bill's going to be like, hey, I don't fucking talk like that, dude. Come on.
Now, since Bill Burr just did the show and you have great comedians that stop by, what makes to you, being in the game so long, Bill Burr so great?
Oh, well, first of all, he stays out of comedy politics. He's not he's like, when I was in the early part of our conversation, how some comics are just right down the middle. He doesn't really take sides. I mean, I'm sure there are comics that don't like him, and I'm sure he doesn't like a lot of comics, but he's not opinionated and doesn't voice his, he kind of keeps to himself. Um, his point of view on life is so, I can't even put a word on it. It's very Chapelle. It's very like cathartic because he says some of the most crass shit. Talk about cancel culture. He talks about feminist and transgender and politics, and he made fun of Michelle Obama in his last special on Netflix, Paper Tiger, and he did it brilliantly. And I was like, you know what? If you can make fun of the first lady of the fucking United States,
that's well loved. Now,
loved.
People make fun of Melania Trump all the time, but that's just a joke, and you don't really think about it. But Michelle Obama is loved.
Bro, I've watched his special Paper Tiger several times just because it's so unapologetic. And I think that's what makes him one of the great comics, is that he's apologetic, but he does it with a smile on his face. When he did he has a show on Netflix, as you know, called F is for Family, the animated show about his life. He said, the only way I can get my story on TV is if I animate it. No one's going to, put this garbage on TV. It's got to be animated. Everyone's got to love it. Kids, it's got to be a cartoon. You can't get mad at a cartoon, like that kind of. Yeah. And I think his crassness, his likability. Look, nobody has a better like grin and shit-eating grin smile than Burr. After he tells a joke that he likes and he starts chuckling to himself. When he does that, then like, all right, this guy doesn't take himself that seriously, but he's smart as fuck, man. I mean, you watch and listen to his comedy, his commentary on his wife and females and how people act in the world, and it's just so on point. I mean, he's one of the true brilliant minds of comedy, and so, he's not like a pushy or greedy comic. I called him up. I hadn't talked to him in like probably, no joke, man, 15 years, or seen him for that matter. I just had his number in my phone. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking call Bill Burr. Fuck it. I had like a moment of confidence. Yeah. I dialed the number. Hello? I said, hey, Bill, it's Ahmed Ahmed. Hey, Ahmed. I said, hey, man, thanks for taking my call. What do you mean thanks for taking your call? I know you 25 fucking years. How you doing? It was just really... And then we had a 20-minute conversation about our lives. And then I said, hey, I got this room in Venice. Do you want to come run an hour there? It's 50 seats. It's not a lot of money, but you can work out your hour there in a safe environment. There's a pool in front of you, your distance. Everybody's wearing masks. And he was so nice. And he came down. It was like super easy. I've dealt with other comics, who I won't mention, who weren't that easy to work with and that polite and professional. And then you ask yourself, wow, how was a guy like Bill Burr, even Chapelle, man? I don't know Chapelle that well, but I know him well enough to where I've texted him in the past, and he texts me back with the most polite replies. Hey, man, thanks for thinking of me. Salam alaikum. Not this time, but next time I'm in town.
The nicest rejection on a text you will get. No, I can't do your show, but hey, keep crushing.
Yeah, but it's like I've texted comics that don't even have any say in the game.
Oh yeah,
and they'll reply with really shitty responses, like, "Oh, that's an insult. Call me when you have more money," stuff like that. And I'm just like, really? Okay.
Well, what's funny is I think it goes hand in hand because you know how I started interviewing like celebrities. So I interviewed Will Smith, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, all these people. And the thing I really notice is the ones that are most successful, Will Smith, Tom Cruise, Robert Downey Jr., those dudes, when they walk into a room, they shake everybody's hands before pre-COVID, but wanted to really make everyone in that room feel special. And then when you interviewed them, they were always on. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I've interviewed so many celebrities where it was like, another interview. Oh. You're like, dude, fuck you. This is my job. I got to do this. Look, you think I want to be here with you? And this is, and this is actors that not even that big. The biggest, the superstar actors Tom Hanks, honestly, the nicest man in the world. Like, he got that
Sure.
tag. But the biggest problems I had were not with those people at all.
Right.
It's with the reality stars,
Well,
the
I can imagine.
housewives
Yeah.
and shit like that. You know, and I'm like, in the scale of things, do you realize your celebrity is going to go away? But like a Will Smith, all these other guys, they're so nice. But then it goes hand in hand. Like the comedians I meet that are the biggest, Jim Jeffries, Bill Burr, Dave Chapelle, they're all nice. You know what I mean? They're all really about talking about comedy and helping people out if they trust you, because trust is big. They got to trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, excuse me, going back
you got
to
the vid, man. You got the COVID.
No, man. COVID doesn't like me.
Oh, really? I don't know. I like brown skin.
I got tested.
Brown skin.
I got tested like 6 times and it came back negative. And I was like, I guess COVID doesn't like Muslims. So, I got the ISIS.
You got the ISIS, not the COVID. You got the ISIS. Okay.
No, I think it goes back to just like showing humility. Here's the thing, Michael. We're not that important. We're not that cool.
100%.
Right? Like, okay, comics provide laughter. Are we considered essential workers? Are we important in the world? Yes. Are we the most important in the world? I would say no. I would say, doctors, scientists, people that are really the essential workers.
Frontline workers right now.
Yeah, we're fucking, we're clowns. Like, we're not that big of a, most of us didn't graduate from high school. Most of us can be assholes. Most of us are self-centered people. Like, when I look at comics and when they act, the way they do, it's just like, hey man, show some humility. You ain't that important. Be humble. Be glad to be here, And so saying that when I'm dealing with like a Bill Burr and I'm dealing with like even guys that aren't like household name famous, but monster comics, I mean, household name to an extent, but like, some of the most brilliant minds in comedy that are out there right now couldn't be kinder. Alonzo Bowden, Ian Bagg, we've just had so many comics come through, Jimmy Schubert, legends. And so it's nice to deal with those cats, Vicky Barbalack, they don't have that chip on their shoulder. And I think their star is only going to continue to rise too. But I think when, and to wrap up your question about Bill Burr, he's very much please, thank you, and excuse me kind of guy.
Yeah.
He has morals, ethics, and values, and that's what makes him successful.
It's so funny. I always get Bill Burr, because I've known Joe Rogan for 21 years, and I see people getting nervous around Joe Rogan a lot at the Comedy Store. He's just like when he lived in LA, he's just bigger than life at the Comedy Store. But when I was with Bill Burr, I was at the South Beach Comedy Festival with him, and he was in the main arena and I was in the smaller one, and I saw him walk in the hallway and he goes, "Yeah, hey Michael, yeah, I know you, but I wanted to be his friend, and I'm just like, I'm not, I guess he's like a real alpha dude. You would, by his comedy, he's a real alpha dude. I don't really know him. But I want to be his friend. He's one of those dudes where we both have kids. I want to be his friend, but I don't know what we would. I don't drink. I don't do like. I like sports, so I was backstage trying to figure out how to make a conversation with him, and I never did because I was like, it's too forced. But it's just a dude I would love to know eventually. But I get so nervous around him. If that makes any sense. And I don't know why. I've interviewed everybody, but Bill Burr, I get nervous around, like I'm thinking he's going, you're a fucking asshole. Or like this is a true story. He said, hi to me. And I went, hi. Yeah. And then he was like, okay. and walked up.
Yeah.
But that's me around him for some reason.
Look, I don't know him that well. I've known him about 20 plus years, but we've probably had, 5-minute conversations, little blips here and there in passing at the Comedy Store. I never really got to know Bill. I've gotten to know him a little bit because he's been coming into our Venice comedy compound every week. And so here's what you do have in common. you're both great comics. You're both husbands. You're both fathers. He loves cigars, which is what I didn't know. He sat there at our compound when the show cleared. He went up on the rooftop with Nate Craig and my sister and a couple people and sat down and smoked a cigar for an hour and just talked shop.
Yeah.
So, he's a pretty normal dude, he
100%.
Oh, and the other thing you do have in common is that he doesn't drink either.
Okay.
So he's not a drinker, I think he's really focused on his children right now. I mean, the last show he did with us, he kind of made it sound like, I got to get home. I got the kids. So I know he's a dedicated father. He's actually passed on a couple shows that we offered him. He's like, nope, Saturday nights with my kids. Sorry,
Yeah.
So I like people that make that a priority. And I'm sure if he got offered $10 million, he'd be like, fuck my kids, Yeah, right. I'll be there.
All right. Well, I got to bounce. What else you got going on?
Hey man, we're just doing this thing. If you're watching, listening, you can follow me at Ahmed Comedy on Instagram, AHMED. We do this show every Friday and Saturday night. It's in Venice Beach, right in the heart of Venice Beach. If you go on my Instagram, the link's in my bio, or you can just click Venice Comedy Compound on Eventbrite. And you'll see everybody who's coming through this month and next month.
Has the pandemic, because I know they're shutting stuff down out there, has that affected you yet, or are they starting to crack down on your shows?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Vegas and Nevada. I'd like to hear that, but here in LA today, actually, or was it yesterday?
Wednesday, I think Wednesday they start where you can't.
Wednesday, yeah. So they basically you can't, all the alfresco restaurants, anything outdoors, shut down. Bars, restaurants, anything outdoors. You can only get takeout, is from what I understand. And then there's a 10 o'clock curfew. But in our place, and we certainly don't want to take the coronavirus for granted. So if anybody's watching and they're like, I can't believe you're putting on a comedy show in the middle of a pandemic, here's the score, people. It's very distanced. It is outdoors. We do require masks. We take temperatures. We don't serve alcohol. We don't serve food, and it's on a private property. So
there you go.
There's, if the system or somebody wants to, blow the whistle on us and come see what we're up to, I'm sure if the cops showed up, they'd probably walk in and be like, "What's going on in here?" "Oh, it's fucking Bill Burr. Hey, you know what? Let's fucking
right.
Fuck the neighbors, whatever." But find us on Eventbrite or Instagram at Ahmed Comedy, Venice Comedy Compound. We got a hot lineup this weekend. The Sklar brothers are performing. Pete Lee from The Tonight Show.
Love him.
Then the following coming up, we have Liza Schlesinger coming in December, Jay Moore. So the hits keep on coming, and you need to be there soon,
I'll give you a date soon. I just got to, I'm with my family, and I'm just trying to stay safe. But I will definitely make it out there. I got some stuff I got to do out there before the end of the year.
So Bill Burr is going on the road. I feel like I'm his manager.
Publicist, you're his publicist.
He said he was going on the road for most of December, and when he comes back, that he'd like to come work out, regularly in our space. So maybe I'll give you a heads up and be like, "Yo,
I definitely want to come down."
Yeah, come open for him. Whatever.
100%.
He normally takes the whole night, does his own hour, and then he brings his own opening acts. But we try to throw people on, before that, just to show love.
Okay, cool.
But I want to book you for just your own night too. So you
100%, 100%. All right, Ahmed, man, keep doing your thing. We'll talk soon. And hey, man, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you're doing comedy and making things happen over there.
Hey, man, same to you. Good luck on the house. Send my best to the family. Shake your dad's hand for me. Tell him. And
I will.
That I love them.
I will. All right, man. Have a great one. Okay.
Peace, brother. You too. See you. Bye.
All right.